the beautiful Belinaites trees that line the Masai Mara and the Mara Triangle, which is, well, where we're doing our safaris today. Jamie's across the river, and myself and Rolf will be playing around in the Mara Triangle. Hello everybody, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Manu, and this is a live and interactive safari that you've just joined us on, so a big welcome. For those of you who have just joined us, remember to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter if you'd like to talk to us, ask us any questions. You can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, I don't know if you know this, but we're going live to Nat Geo Wild soon. Not today, don't get too excited, but in a couple of days' time. In fact, it's actually going to be quite special. It's going to be after that big game. I don't know what they call it, something that they celebrate. I don't know, all of you from the United States get very excited for it, but basically on Sunday the 4th, straight after some big game, we'll be going live for our first of, well, a week of full primetime safaris. How exciting is that? And that's not all. It gets even better. I bet you're all excited, bet you're all shouting Safari Bingo! Yep, we're bringing it back. So for those of you who do live in the US of A, you could stand a chance, well, to play the game, really. Safari Bingo. So if you would like to find out a little bit more on how you could win a trip for two to Africa, maybe even, you know, coming to visit this area, I don't know, you can head across to natgeo.com/Safari Live to find out how to play the game. Remember, the more you play, the more chances you have to win. So that's quite exciting. I'm kind of envious. I think that sounds great, even though I get to live every single day out here in Africa, in South Africa and in Kenya. But we haven't got any animals just yet. It's a little bit on the quiet side. But you know what I have just found, Manu? I want to go a little bit further forward. I found a really cool animal pathway. Oh, I don't even have to start the car. Can you see it? How nice is that? Now, we don't see many pathways at the moment because it is so green. Maybe some impala, some giraffe, have all walked in this line, and I would imagine that would have been a few of them, and have flattened the grass. And it was quite funny this morning when we were with the Olololo lions, the new tree climbing lions of the Mara Triangle. You would have noticed. I know you weren't with us. They were all walking on these narrow pathways. Not even they enjoy walking through the tall grass at the moment. So we'll carry on. Our plan for this afternoon is, I think, to head to the Marsh. I think that's what we're going to do. I have not been to the Marsh for, what, maybe about 8 days now. I didn't even get to go very far this morning. So I think we'll head on the direction that the elephants were moving in, and perhaps we'll find my two favorite lionesses and see if they're about, which will be nice, I think. Maybe they're hungry, maybe they're not. Perhaps we'll just look then for the marsh breakaways and see some little cubs. That would be cool too. But like I said, we're very lucky this afternoon because Jamie has decided to trek across the Mara River into the Masai Mara National Reserve, and she's starting her afternoon off with a bang.
Our afternoon has so far been absolutely incredible, but unfortunately starting on a sort of a tragic note. So believe it or not, in the shade over there are 5 male cheetah, and they they were in the most perfect spot for us a moment ago. They just took off after a topi, taking me down into an area where unfortunately we don't have any broadcast signal, which is truly quite tragic. But they are over there. I mean, you can see them sort of through the heat haze of a very, very warm afternoon. And we're just going to have to hope that the boys decide to go back to where there's good signal once again. Because I've had to park all the way over here so that we can show them to you, and I can still actually, well, speak to all of you. Good afternoon to you all. For those of you that are new to these safaris, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Adrian is on camera with me. He's come across for his second trip across the river. Yeah, second trip across the river. And the first, as we saw the what do they call the end? Cheetah. That's the word. As we saw the cheetah, they shot off after a topi. So he's had an exciting start to his afternoon. So now what? I know that Miali is in the area. She's a female cheetah, and she's not too far away from where these boys are. Yep, Mia, I can put your mind at ease. All 5 cheetah boys are present and accounted for. I was actually doing an interesting, well, just a head count when they displayed some very interesting behavior. The cheetah that had shot off after the topi completely messed the hunt up. He went too soon, whereas the other 4 were hanging back. And interestingly, as the 5th sort of returned, the one that had messed up the hunt, D'Artagnan, the one with the collar, the musketeer with the collar, immediately raced out and tackled him and pulled him to the ground with all of the sort of standard squeaking sounds that one hears in a cheetah fight. You will, of course, notice that there are other vehicles here. The tourists do come to both the Mara Triangle and the Mara National Reserve to see these amazing creatures. And they're heading off now. The excitement is over. Unfortunately, whether I want to or not, we might have to move off as well. They are hungry, so what I think I'm going to do is I'll move off and then I'll come back and hope that they've moved into better signal area towards the end of the evening. That I think will be my plan. Don't forget, #SafariLive is how you can get hold of us. I think that might be our only plan. There was a very brave topi that actually, the one that they chased, walked back around them, but he seems to have vanished off again. And there's a couple, I can only see one at the moment, there's a cantankerous old buffalo bull over there, and I think that's what's stopped their forward motion. I think they were planning on heading further in my direction, but I think the presence of those buffalo might have changed their minds. You've seen, I think many of you will have seen what happened with the buffalo and Malaika's and her 2 boys. They were chased by buffalo, then they caught an impala, and then the buffalo came racing back in and charged in. Malaika and her boys scattered spots in every direction, and they actually grabbed the impala carcass, one of them did, and threw it up into the air. It did a full somersault. A tremendous display of power. I've never seen anything like that with cheetah and impala carcass and buffalo. It was a spectacular sighting. Ben, no, absolutely not. As strong as they are, Ben would like to know if the 5 males could take down a buffalo, not a fully grown one. They could most definitely take down a buffalo calf, but remember how a lot of the time the buffalo herd rallies around their stricken members. So there is a chance, it's actually most likely that they would end up being chased away from that buffalo calf if they were trying to hunt one. But a big old buffalo bull like this, one of the ones separate from the breeding herds, we term them Duggar boys, but they have lots of different names. There's no way that the musketeers would take him on. They would just be risking really serious injury, if not death. The largest things I've ever seen the males take on have been adult wildebeest and adult topi and hartebeest. I bet they could probably tackle an adult zebra as well. I'm pretty certain. Okay, team, we're going to go pottering off in the direction of Miali, I think, as she might be in a better signal area. So while we potter off, let's go all the way across the river, join Taylor in the triangle, who is pottering in the direction of the swamp.
We are still pottering. We've just turned on to, it's not quite a highway, but it's one of the main roads that through this area and takes you towards the little governor's camp, essentially. And it's a great spot because I bet you're all screaming with joy now, shouting, "Jackals! Jackals! Taylor, find us the jackals!" I'll try. I would very much like to see the jackals and actually spend a bit of time with them. Although the last couple of times we have seen them, it's been in the morning, so maybe we'll pop past here again tomorrow morning and see what's happening. So it's always quiet around here. We go through this every single time we come out on safari. We just drive and drive and drive for about 15 minutes where we don't really see much at all. And then, my goodness, then you don't know where to look because there's animals all around you essentially. So we'll get to that spot. So for now we'll just enjoy the lovely green grass, bits of yellow here and there too. And if we see any exciting birds along the way, perhaps we'll have a look at them as well. Chris, you were wondering what has been my most memorable moment so far of working with Safari Live. That's a hard one. There's been so many great experiences experiences. A lot of them that none of you have even seen, you know, that have happened just around camp. I don't know, I think one of the thing that I will take away from safari life, not that I'm going anywhere, don't panic, but that I will always remember about working for Wild Earth is the most amazing team, and how we fight like cat and dog sometimes, but we're like siblings and we just get over it. A few minutes later you're not talking to one another and then you're best friends again. That is really special. That's something that I've truly never experienced anywhere else or in any other working environment. So to have that is so great, and that everybody has your back. It's honestly the nicest feeling. If you're down, there's somebody that's around that will notice, that will cheer you up. It's quite special. There have been many memorable moments with the various mammalian and avian species out here. My goodness, I can't even tell you. Like the other day when we had that young elephant cow who was throwing mud at us. That was quite funny, in fact. And when she was throwing a tantrum next to the car, that was amazing. I always talk about that serval-hyena interaction because I truly believe that I'm never going to see anything like that again. Seeing a striped polecat, an animal that I thought I'd never seen in my entire life. It was just a mythical creature. Yes, it was a quick glimpse of one, but it was still a striped polecat. That was pretty spectacular. That was late. Almost being stampeded to death by wildebeest. Yeah, we'll never forget honestly the terror that I felt. I haven't been scared like that in a very long time. So there's been so many amazing moments. I mean, seeing brown cranes, chicks for the first time. That's epic. Seeing 7 black rhino in one sighting. Pretty amazing. Are they talking? My audio is breaking up. Sorry, everybody. Manu is telling me that something is going on, and now is it a bit better? Apologies, everybody. I was making my audio break up. I think I was just moving around, wiggling around too much. So yeah. I mean, there's so many different things I could talk about, but it's hard to remember just one thing. I mean, how was that gerbil sighting? Pretty spectacular. Justin, you're wondering if I've participated in any pranks lately? Not really. No, I've been pretty well behaved though. I tried to, while I was on holiday, I tried to push someone in the pool, just pretending, of course. That didn't work. I've given many people frights. I do that often though. I don't know. I don't think I've pranked anybody in a while. Manu? No, we haven't pranked anybody, hey? No, but we should probably get onto it. That's definitely something that we could improve and add more to our life is pranking around camp. I can't even remember anymore. Everything goes so quickly here, and it's hard to sometimes remember the things that you did the day before. Goodness, apologies everybody, it's really quiet. I'm just going to apologize on behalf of nature right now. There's a couple of grasshoppers and things, so if I see them landing in the road, we'll stop and have a look. Might as well investigate and have a closer look at what all the birds and what the jackals and things are eating at the moment. I did see one hopped, and then as I was about to break, it hopped back off onto the grass, and well, the chances of me finding it from the car, slim to none. Oh, their camouflage is magnificent. Oh my goodness, a bird! Oh, look at this bright bird in front of us. Oh wow, it is actually quite beautiful, isn't it? Hello. Lovely lilac-breasted roller, of course, for those of you that are unfamiliar, sitting on the top of a Datura stramonium, mulpita, that horrible plant, not a very nice one that you shouldn't eat the seeds of, because they are toxic or hallucinogenic. There's kind of a toss-up. They don't really know the dosage of how many seeds you should take, and I think we should keep it that way, rather just avoid them completely. Wendy, you've said such beautiful colours. They are. They were looking a bit faded just before I left, but they seem to have come back into their colours quite nicely. And this one in particular, I haven't seen one with such striking turquoise on the panel of its wing. And I'm just looking at its streamers on its tail. Normally they have 2. Does this one only have 1? I wonder if it's lost one. Now, it's very difficult to tell the differences between males and females. I was going to say if it was perhaps a male, maybe he'd been in a bit of a a scuffle with another lilac-breasted roller, but I can't confirm how many streamers it has. I've got another one, lilac-breasted roller, if you'd want it. No, it's got both of them. There we go. Ooh. Dances with Dirt, you said this is the second lilac-breasted roller you've seen. Fantastic. It's a good example of one too. Now, I, however, prefer to see lilac-breasted rollers sitting on the backs of zebra. I like watching all the birds ride the animals, using them for various reasons, but not today. This is a bit of a hot spot though. I was commenting on the amount of insect life that's around. There's so many butterflies, although you can't see them now. Lots of butterflies, lots of grasshoppers, so there's plenty of things to eat. There we go. Oh, got something. It's another one of those grasshoppers. Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic camera work again from Manu, the bird man. That's what we're going to call you from now on. Very cool. Still got it. And it's going to fly and perhaps take it to a perch and feed on it. Yep, let's see if it's going to gobble it up now. Oh, there's a woodpecker of sorts too. I don't know what woodpecker it is, but take a screenshot. It's quite big. I wonder what woodpeckers we get you. I'll have to go through. But I remember someone was asking about a few weeks ago with regards to woodpecker species. So I can't see that very well because it's in the shadows and it is so far. So even if I pick my binoculars up, it's not really going to help. But it's a fairly large woodpecker and it looked like it had a red cap to it. So at some point, I will pull out my book and then I'll go through the woodpecker species and we can try and identify it together. But it looked like the size of maybe like a golden bearded woodpecker or something like that. It's not a small one. Very nice. Anyways, we'll figure out what woodpecker that is in the next few minutes. But Jamie has managed to find some more cheetah. Can you believe it?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome aboard yet another sunset safari. Now, we are sitting here in the Mara Triangle, just 1 degree south of the equator in Kenya, and you're watching Safari Live with me, Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Archie. Welcome back, Archie. He's been away for a little while, so he's back as my wingman. But please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Send us your questions and your comments. Get involved in the largest game drive in the world. Now, this morning I was watching out on a little balloon safari, so it was very exciting, and we saw things from up in the sky. Unfortunately, we didn't come across any lion prides, but nonetheless, that means this afternoon we've got every chance that we can head to different areas and find them. But my plan for the day, I think we're going to head down towards the river crossings, maybe pop in at the hyena den, but it's a very good afternoon, I believe, because we've got Jamie all the way across the river and Taylor and myself scouring this area and trying to find the most amazing scenes that we can. So what a wonderful opportunity, and it's always great to be a part of it, so please get involved. Now, back to our elephant over here in front. They're moving slowly up towards the forested area, but this is one of the really big luggers that comes down from the Olololo escarpment, and so lots of water in this drainage line, and as you can see, these elephants have been enjoying that. That one looks like he's been walking that deep in the water, but I think it's probably been spraying itself with the trunk all the way up its sides. And nice to see a couple of bull ellies just moving through this grassed area. It's quite a cool afternoon. It's not too hot. There's quite a lot of clouds around, and there's every chance that we might get a bit of thunderstorms once again a bit later. But for the time being, it's probably mid-25 degrees Celsius or so, somewhere there, and around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's a little breeze as well, keeping us nice and cool, and I think the animals are quite comfortable. Always the good indicator, watching those elephants and how much they flap their ears as to how hot it is. And there's a little bit of it going on, but not too much. So they're quite happy, but enjoying the lovely wetness here in this sort of boggy or marshy slash swampy area, whatever you want to call it. But there is a lot of water underfoot there. And as you can see, they're also enjoying the good green vegetation. Lots of feeding going on. So they're not only quenching their thirsts and cooling themselves off, they're also continuously feeding. And I love how they use their foot sometimes when they wrap their trunk around a whole bunch of grass and then use their foot to kick it off sideways like that. Now, James, you want to know if elephants ever stop eating? Well, yes, they do every now and then, because it does help, obviously, for them to be more elephants. So reproducing would be one time that they would have to stop. And also when they are sort of establishing dominance between males, maybe a little bit of fighting going on. And also, while they're busy drinking, they generally really love to swim in the water and so on, but they do spend a lot of time feeding. They have to, literally, because their digestive system is so bad that they need to feed a lot in order to sustain themselves. Now, I've just started the drive and we've already spotted some elephants. The first one of the big five for me on this drive. But speaking of big five, let's head you on over to Jamie, who's got number 2 in that 5.
Almost, but sadly it's not Jamie with the beautiful voice, it's Taylor with the silly Eastern Cape accent. Right, we have found our lion, and we've got elephants walking in the background, so we're not quite at the marsh, and you can see we are very far away. I don't know if there's a road that goes closer. Perhaps there is, we'll have to discover it together. But it's one lioness. I'm unable at the moment to tell you which lioness this is, which pride she belongs to. I'm looking around at the moment and I don't see any others, but it's in the spot that it could be one of those 2 girls that I was talking about that hangs around up in this area, or we're also fairly close to where the Marsh breakaways, the 3 lioness with the 7 cubs, hang around. So it's a bit of a gamble at the moment, but I suppose either way they're all part of the same pride, aren't they? So we'll just go and say she's part of the Marsh breakaways. And I don't know where the other one is, or the rest of them are, and why she's out in the open. Has she been stalking warthogs all day long? She looks quite hot. She's panting a little bit, but from this distance it's a bit hard to tell if she's had anything to eat. But look how alert she is as well. She's constantly scanning, so perhaps she is hungry and she's on the lookout for her next meal. However, no warthogs in this area just yet. Maybe she's already chased them around a little bit. So what we may do at some point is also go driving off. So that'll be quite exciting to have a look a little bit later. Now, Ryan, you're wondering if I've ever felt a male lion's roar reverberate through my body? Oh yes, I have indeed. Pride, and I can't remember how many lions were there at the time, and the 2 Charleston males, no, it was the 2 four-ways males roaring right next to my vehicle, all of them, and it was incredible. Pretty much, if you'd had a glass of water sitting in a tumbler, sitting on your car, it would have done the Jurassic Park. You know, when the Tyrannosaurus Rex is coming and is stomping and the water starts to ripple slightly, but this would have been a more constant. I think the glass would have just been vibrating consistently. So it's honestly, it's the most incredible experience. Hearing a fish eagle call, a hyena whoop, and a lion, a big male lion quite close to your car doing a big roar are some of the most amazing sounds. Even hearing elephants rumble, and if there's enough of them around you, sometimes you can sort of feel a slight vibration as well, which is pretty spectacular. And it is nice when you don't just hear something but you feel it too. And well, unless I suppose you're hugging a big speaker at a concert or standing next to an aeroplane, you probably won't feel the vibrations like you do when a lion roars. A lioness, though, when she roars, she definitely can make your hairs on your arms stand up, but it doesn't quite send the vibration through your body like a big male lion. Their roar doesn't seem to be as deep and doesn't go on for as long as well. Maybe we're going to be in luck. Maybe we're going to hear the Chitwa Boys and we're going to find somewhere in the forest I'm, of course, just hoping and putting it out there. It'd be nice if they could do us a big roar. I said to you, I'm sure it was them that were making quite a bit of noise in the early hours of this morning, but they've just moved on. So you never know. They just pop up randomly too, which could be quite good. So I was having a look at the woodpeckers while you stare at our beautiful lion and the elephants moving past it. I didn't get a good view. Like I said, I barely saw it. It was in the sun and then it went into the shadows. I don't know, did it have a stripe going down? It's not down the middle of its throat, but just on the side, because I'm wondering if we could have seen a Nubian woodpecker. Should we have a look, Manu? Just while our lioness is not doing much and while I ponder as to what our next move is going to be. So I was having a look, and then if you look up to the top over here, number 1, whoops, sorry Manu, that is a Nubian woodpecker, and it's quite a big one. So like I said, it definitely wasn't a small woodpecker. Maybe it was that one. The golden-tailed woodpecker doesn't occur here, so it can't be that. The other one it could be is a bearded woodpecker, so I'm going to just turn over the pages to find it now. The bearded woodpecker is that really cool one that makes that amazing sound. So number 1 again. You can have a look. But that looks quite dark. But again, it was in the shadow, so it was a bit deceiving. So if you had a better look than I did, hashtag Safari Live. But those are going to be my 2 guesses. Either a bearded woodpecker or a Nubian woodpecker. But maybe we can try and visit that spot a little bit later. Perhaps it will be on the same branch, just moving around. It would be nice if we could get, but it was quite far off the road, so again it doesn't really help us. It's a bit frustrating when the birds just sit too far out of the distance. Right, where'd she go? Uh-oh. No, man. David Copperfield the lion, come out, wherever you are. Or Houdini, where did you go? Well, now I need to get the binoculars. How ridiculous is that? Have you got her? Flat. Ah. You think that's her there? I mean, look at my binoculars as well. Could be, Manu. You think she's sitting there just where those shrubs are? There's one shrub, then there's then there's a gap, then there's another shrub, and to the left of that. Yeah, I think you're right, Manu. I think you are right. I think that's her down there. Well, that doesn't help us now, does it? Oh, silly cat. Rocky, you said you thought we were looking at a cardinal woodpecker. Cardinal woodpeckers are small, though. They're under 20 centimeters. Let me just quickly go back, Rocky. Again, it just looked from a distance. It looked big. Right, where's cardinal? How big is a cardinal? I always remember them to be fairly little. Yeah, 14 to 16 centimeters. This one looked massive, and the reason why I say that is because we were so far away, and it wasn't too much smaller than the lilac-breasted roller. Let me quickly see how big a lilac-breasted roller is in terms of head to tail. So I suppose I've got to find the R's now. Let me have a look. I can't believe that girl has done that. I don't blame her, though. It is hot sitting in the sun, so she's obviously just resting in some shade. Have I gone too far? No. Right, roller. Here we go. 278. Let's see what they say for lilac-breasted roller. See, lilac-breasted roller is just, including the streamers, 37 centimeters, but without them, but the length of a ruler, essentially, just a centimeter short. So I don't know, but I also haven't had a good look. I will have a look on Twitter and see if any of you took some screenshots and investigate further. So we'll leave it up in the air for now. Everybody, though, get involved, join the conversation. What woodpecker, to be specific, did you think it was, and why? Like I said, I didn't think it looked too much smaller than the lilac-breasted roller bouncing around, which to me eliminates cardinal, but hey, I could be wrong. And then I will quite happily say so. Again, we're going to try and go around and see if we can find some more lions lying in the tall grass. Perhaps there will be a few more. There's some elephants up ahead. We'll have a look at them in a little bit too. Let's jump back on board with Ralph and see where he is now.
Thanks, Taylor. And we're just watching a very small breeding herd of elephants. They're starting to make their way towards us. And sorry, I keep on mixing Taylor and Jamie up. Jamie, when she arrived and replaced Taylor when she went on leave, I was calling Jamie Taylor, and now I'm calling Taylor Jamie because she's also been away. So I'm getting it really mixed up. I'm sure it's not the last time I'm going to. But nonetheless, we're sitting watching a lovely group coming straight towards us. And there's still the bulls that are just happy in the same place that they were, a little bit closer to the river. But this breeding herd now moving up towards us. So that's why I decided just to hang around a little bit. There were a couple of the young males just having their usual playtime and argy-bargy. And it was quite fun to watch. This one with the water on his head, he was one of the culprits. And he had another one that was pretty much the same age as him. And they're probably early teenage years, and so they're really enjoying their playtime. You can see this one elephant here in front. He's thrown quite a bit of mud on his ear. Nice splat there. He's full of mud, and then once they fill themselves up with mud like that, they'll often go and rub up against a nice tree with a little bit of knobblies on it. And they do tend to wear it quite smooth in the end, but generally doesn't damage the tree too much. It's only when they start to use their tusks and pushing that into the bark to get to that inner cambrium, which they then feed on. There we can see that youngster still wanting to play, I think, with his sibling. Always shaking the head and putting the ears out. That's sort of the kind of aggressive signs that you see from elephants. Now, Ravinda, you want to know if I've ever seen two bull elephants fight aggressively? Yes, Ravinda, I've seen it a few times. And I actually saw it, I think it was about a week or 10 days ago or so. Just here in the Masai Mara, we had a couple of very big bull elephants have a go at each other. And they were both in must, which is generally the time when they do have a little bit of battles. And the one that was actually the instigator, he started the whole fight. He picked out a bull that was coming across the marsh or the swampy area, and he went straight at him, and they clashed heads and tusks, and they had a real push and shoving match, and the instigator came off really second best. He got pushed backwards, and he then tucked his tail between his legs and ran off across the swampy area with the winner in tow, and he sort of probably just paraded a little bit that he had won the little dominance battle between them. And the perpetrator was looking very sheepish after that, because he really embarrassed himself going in for the charge and then getting pushed back and putting his tail between his legs and running for the hills. So that's not how it always results. Sometimes the battle can be a little bit closer, and it can go on for a long period of time, and it can even land up with one of them being killed. Especially when you've got an old dominant bull that's not willing to step aside for a new challenger, and so he will keep on being very stubborn, and so eventually might be killed by the young challenger. But it's normally the younger challengers that will very easily leave the battle once they realize that the older bull is more dominant. But it's the times when the older bulls are actually losing the fight that you have more deaths, because yes, they've been dominant for so long that it's difficult for them to accept or accede to a youngster. And so it needs to go sometimes a little bit further than just a wrestling match and a headbutt or tusk sword fight. But they can also break their tusks as well, so there's all sorts that they can damage each other quite badly, and as I say, even sometimes killing the other one. But these elephants seem quite happy at the moment. And remember that it's generally when bulls are in must that they will fight. Lilu, you want to know if elephants sneeze? Well, I'm pretty sure that they might do. That's a very good question, Lilu. But if they did sneeze, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near them because that could be quite scary if they sneezed in your direction. Because I think that could be quite powerful. But I've never seen an elephant sneeze. That's a very interesting question. I think I need to look into that one and see if there's any research or any witnessed events of real sneezing from elephants. But I've spent a lot of time with them, and I can't say that I've ever noticed any kind of sneeze coming from an elephant. So it's not to say that it can't happen. It's just that I've never seen it happen. A lot more things going in their nose than, they have to take it in to throw it out. But I've only seen them picking up water, sucking up water, picking up soil, mud, all sorts, and throwing it over themselves or drinking from it or eating it. But never having seen actually just a straight... I don't know what noise it would be. It would probably be like a... I don't know. It would be very interesting. I'm going to look that up. But that looks like 3 bulls over there with the Mara River in the background. Now, Dale, you want to know what kind of feet do elephants have? Well, that's a very interesting question because it's quite complex. And when we were studying as guides, they actually falsely told us that elephants walk in a plantigrade position, which is quite like the primates, and because we walk on the whole foot. But I dispelled this notion when we actually came across a carcass one day in the northern parts of the Kruger National Park, and it had been cleaned up quite nicely by the hyenas and the lions and all sorts, so we were unsure of the reasons or causes of the death. But we then managed to be able to have a look at the foot structure, and it seems that they walk on the fingers. And there at that first joint, that is basically the ankle. So the ankle is raised, but they are walking on the fingers. And we saw this from the skeletal structure. So that is more like the cats and the dog-like animals. Digitigrade position is what we call it, because plantigrade is the primates who walk on the whole foot. Digitigrade is the cat and dog-like animals which walk on their fingers, and then unguligrade, like all the antelope, who walk right on the tips of their toes. But elephants are pretty much in between, with that they walk on their fingers. And then they don't have hooves, they actually have nails in front. So very interesting to see. If we get to see one of those feet that is actually exposed just above the grass, because they're disappearing in the grass, so we can't see their nails, but then their front foot very round, like a bubble, almost a pure circle, and the back foot being a little bit more shaped like an American football, so a little bit more elongated or oval as opposed to round. And then there are a lot of sort of sponge-like material inside the foot, which makes for them walking very softly. And they can pick up tiny little feelings with their feet, so it's obvious that it's very sensitive, although it is quite thick skin. And so it's very interesting, especially the muscles and the functions and how things work in the trunk and the feet. For me, are 2 very interesting parts on an elephant. But I think I'm going to move on now a little bit towards the river. And while I do that, let's head you on over to Jamie, who I think is on the move.
I've stopped my on-the-moveness in order to show you some little warthog piglets. There's a whole sounder of them, but that sounder doesn't even do justice. There must have been at least 8 piglets there. But as you can see, if you watch the trees moving in the distance, there is a significant amount of wind. And what that means is that they are very, very nervous this afternoon. We know that there's a cheetah somewhere around here. I still haven't managed to work out exactly where she is, but she's somewhere around here. They're probably feeling a bit on edge. And you'll find that common to all animals. When the wind wind blows, as we always repeat this, when the wind blows, they don't have their sense of smell or sense of hearing, so it has a tendency to make them exceptionally nervous and jumpy, and especially if you're a little warthog piglet, because everything wants to eat a little warthog piglet. We do also have some ostriches, but I'm going to have to move so that I can get you closer to them. I apologize for disappearing for so long. I'm struggling. I'm driving Brent's vehicle, and the places that I know I can go and the places this vehicle can go in terms of signal are not, they don't seem to be tying together, which is quite peculiar. There we go, we're back up and running. I'm just going to have to stick to the ridges. Almost every single day there are moments out in the wilderness that still surprise me. Absolutely. There we go. Here are ostriches. Ostriches are always entertaining to sit and watch. Tom, the most recent surprise moment that I had was when the crowned cranes were mobbing the crocodile from... Adrian, was that yesterday morning? That feels like sometime in 2017 at this rate. It was yesterday morning, apparently. That was the last time I was really truly surprised. So it happens all the time. We don't, and there's not one of us, I think, who would claim as Wild Earth guides, not one of us would claim that we know everything there is to know out here. And it would be a sad day indeed if things stopped surprising us, if things were certainly most sightings that we have, I wouldn't say we find predictable, but we are able to predict the way in which they're going to play out. But there are always circumstances and always things that take us by surprise. And I mean, that's the joy of working in wildlife, isn't it? Because you can't control or predict where the animals are going to be day to day. So even just finding them in a certain area could be a surprise. There we go, the male ostrich with his striking dark plumage, compared to the poor, rather drab females who have a sort of a motley, browny grey look to them. They look a little bit like they haven't got their full adult feathers, but that is their full adult plumage. With most bird species, you'll find that the male is more brightly coloured than the female. It's just a standard approach of bird evolution. No! Wendy, we haven't seen ostrich chicks in the Mara yet. That's actually one of the reasons why I stopped here, to see whether or not there was any chance of them leading us to a nest. I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't think that any of them would be up and moving about if they had nests, or at least one of them would still be behind. So, Wendy, no, we haven't. Brent found a nest, and he went back to check on it recently, and he said he thinks that a hyena or something like that must have got in there, because there was no sign of anything, unfortunately. So we have not seen ostrich chicks, and I find this very sad because I've been dying to show you ostrich chicks. Tiny little things running along behind the parents with ridiculous feathers that look totally different to what they're going to look like when they're adults. Now, Richard, I couldn't give you a specific in terms of how many eggs there are in an ostrich nest, and the reason that I say that is that ostriches can actually have communal nests. So they can actually lay, the females will actually add to the nest. They'll put their eggs all together. So I'm not sure exactly what the average clutch size per ostrich would be. You're probably looking at around about 6 to 10, and then it depends on how many females are wandering about and have joined in and joined that nest. So they can actually nest communally, which changes the averages quite substantially. I don't know exactly what the average would be. Maybe somewhere around 15, maybe 20. Guessing. Pure guess. Okay, I've got to say, we're talking about surprises and surprising things. The last thing I expected to be saying to you right now is that we are going to go across to Taylor because she has found a frog.
Got a frog and an ant, a frog and an ant. Go and get out, quickly. Yes, well done, you found land. I have no idea what frog it is. I think it could be one of the grass frogs, just because we're out in the middle of nowhere and it's quite grassy but marshy around here. There's beautiful bronze stripes on it though. Oh, it's lovely. I'm Googling at the moment because I don't have a frog book on me. It's in South Africa. So I'm having a look. So you might all have a go. Have a look at the cacos. I think a caco might be a little bit too small. And grass frogs tend to have a bit more of a pointed nose, as you can sort of see there. And it's got a few ridges on its back too. So I think I'm going to go with one of the grass frogs. But now, what else do they call grass frogs here? What about a mascarene grass frog? Let me have a look. I'm Googling. Sorry, everybody. Let's have a quick look here. See if it's one of those. Grass frogs are also, I think they called them ridge frogs as well. Yeah, yes. Let me have a look. Let me pull this image up. Oh, whoa, can I catch something? What did it do, Manu? What tried to catch it? A terrapin? I don't know what just happened. That was too exciting. Yes, okay, so we've had a striped rocket frog, and I'm pretty sure that's the same thing as a mascarene grass frog. So I just pulled out a picture. Have you got it? No, I think it's gone. We'll try find it again, but just have a very quick look here for the meantime. Hang on. Let me just do that. Sorry, my phone is also a bit dusty now. So if you have a look, let me see, is the screen turned up? Screen is turned up. How's that? Very bronze stripes on it, very pointy nose. I'm going to go and say that it is the mascarene, or I think they call it a striped rocket frog is another name. But the grass frogs, the ridge frogs, they're pretty much the same thing. They've just got different names. But that was quite cool because I love amphibians. Let me see if I can find another one. You know how I found it? I was looking at some tracks that are in here in the mud, and I was trying to figure out what they were. They were warthog tracks. And then I chased the frog out, and then there was also a grasshopper. Let's see if we can find another one. Oh, there it is. Camouflage. Okay. Have you got break up again? It's fine, that's so strange. Trying to have a look down here to see if I can see anyone else that's going to leap out. Let's see. Maybe we get some more interesting tracks. No. I also drove over the warthog tracks as I hit the brakes to not drive over the frog. But that was quite nice to see, a little bit of variation. I miss amphibians so much. We don't get to see them too often, we just normally get to hear them. So Manu and I have made an executive decision, and we've decided that we're not going to be able to get back to where that lioness was. She's sitting in a very awkward spot, and there's no road that is close to her, and if she stays flat in the grass, which I assume she will, as we were lucky enough to see her sitting out and up in the open, it's not going to be too much fun now, is it? So, we'll try here. We'll try and maybe find some scallows, turacos. How does that sound? Sound good? I think it sounds great. We didn't get a good view of them the other day, so we'll go check around those forests with all the fruiting diospirous trees. Have a squiz is always an opportunity for a black rhino, and I know some of you were hoping we were going to find one this morning. You might find a black rhino. Elephants, definitely. I'm sure there'll be the odd buffalo, because this is where we were when we saw them this morning. Here's a big bone. There's actually lots of bones around here. Manu, have we driven past these bones before? Is it just that it looks different now that the grass is so tall? Possibly. I would assume this is from a hippo. They're big, big bones. I think a little bit too large for a buffalo, in fact, and there's quite a few scattered around here. I don't think from that hippo carcass we had the other day, or not the other day, it was a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now. And you can see that there's something was eaten here. Most likely by the Triangle Boys, or the Marsh breakaways. This is hot in their turf. But no lions around here, no hyena, but just the remains. I would say they make nice perches for the larks to sit on. Rosinda, you're wondering if it's blistering hot here right now. No, in fact it isn't. I have not been able to kick this cold that I've had that I got just before I went on leave, and I think it's because of the fluctuations in temperature. I went to the beach and it was so hot, so hot. That was blistering hot. And then in Nairobi was freezing cold, and then camp is sort of in the mornings it's very chilly, the days are nice and warm, and then the evenings a bit of a chill as well. So it's not good when you're trying to get rid of this stupid little cold that keeps hanging around. Well, there's lots of animals here. Let's see, let's look at those ones. Just want to get around the corner and we'll have a look. There's a variety. There's impala, there's a waterbuck, warthogs, topi, even a Thompson's gazelle has arrived. It's all happening in the marsh. It always happens in the marsh. Whee. Squeaky brakes for Mila. Looks like that pig has had a good roll in the round in the mud. I just see all the shiny stuff. I think they've all been sitting in some of these wallows just on the side of the road. Topi, nice and clean though. You can see with a lovely shiny coat, very short hair. And then the pigs are all coated nicely in that mud, which must be so fantastic, so refreshing on a warm day like today. I don't know what the temperature is, unfortunately. I'm going to guess. I like playing this guessing game. I'm going to say it's 25 degrees Celsius. And we'll see. Faith will check for us. And we shall find out. That's a young boy by the looks of it. I wonder if those other two on the right might be young boars as well. Maybe it's a little bachelor group. A bit hard to see. It's a bit glary out today. Ooh! Okay, Faith says it's 27 degrees. So I was wrong there. Almost. Normally I'm pretty good at guessing the temperature. And then I normally argue against it as well and say that's ridiculous, it's much hotter, or it's freezing cold. I'm never happy with the answers that I've given. Warthog causing a stir there, charging through the impala herd. That impala having a good old stretch. It looks like they've been sitting down, relaxing for most of the day. Not getting up to too much. All having a scratch now. Probably just resting, ruminating, doing all those essential daily tasks. Some of them even grooming one another. A couple of oxpeckers here and there. Lots and lots of different animals. And a very big warthog. They're massive out here in the Mara. Right, we're still trying to find some more cats, and I reckon if we are persistent, we will. Jamie is on an absolute roll with finding the kind with lots of spots.
How exciting is this? So we found you 8 cheetah this afternoon. Admittedly, the first 5, I'm not sure if they really counted because they were so far away, but we found you 3 more. And I think most of our regular viewers can guess who we have here. What are you doing all the way down here, girl? Last time I saw you was for Big Cat Week, and you were on the other side of the Talek River. So we have Malaika and her 2 boys. This is Malaika over here. And actually they are being watched by a hyena who is just waiting for them to get up and start hunting so that it can take full advantage of whatever kill they make. But this hyena might just be barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. There's 3 of them here. And her 2 boys are getting so big now. Let's have a look at them. They were 1.5 years in December. They were 18 months old in December, so they're now nearly 20 months old. Oh, a little blood under his chin. Apparently they did catch something small earlier. Oh, look at the paw, scraping the dirt mound as well. Oh, being very cat-like. Lily, I'm very happy to hear that you are watching, and Lily is now 7 years old and is very, very excited to see these cheetah. So Lily, I'm glad to hear that you're joining us this afternoon, and I'm very, very glad that I could find some cheetah for you. I know how much you love them. Lots of you very excited to see the cheetah. I just love the fluffiness, the mantles on the backs of their necks. So they're keeping an eye on the cheetah, on the hyena, waiting for him or her to make its move. But I think at this point, pretty much a stalemate. They can't always have been lying out here in the sun, so they've obviously been unceremoniously kicked out of the shady spot that they were in. And just by the way, after all of the rain over the last few weeks, the flay ink flowers are just so beautiful. Now, Ryan says that Malaika is such a wonderful mom. Let me give the new viewers a quick rundown on Malaika, because, of course, it helps for everyone to be able to relate to her a little bit. So Malaika is probably one of the most famous cheetah in the world. One of the things that she is famous for is actually quite naughty. Not on her part, but on the part of the guides who let it happen. Malaika likes to jump on cars. She likes to use cars as extra special termite mounds. That's not something that we really want to see happen, because it risks the passengers, it risks the cheetah. It's not really natural behavior. However, Malaika is world famous, and she is now 10 years old, and these two boys are probably going to be her last litter. You never know, though. Nature doesn't read the rule book. And she has only, apart from these two boys who aren't quite independent yet, she only has 2 living offspring, Malik and Bawa. She did raise a female to adulthood, but unfortunately she didn't make it. So it is a really tough life for cheetah mums out here, but you are right, she is. Just want to make sure she doesn't come jump on me, not on me, on the car. You are absolutely right. From what we've seen, the way that she functions, the way that she hunts, she is an exceptional mother. She's just aiming for the shade, I think. I love the way she lets the boys get on with things these days. My head is very much in your way. I'm so sorry. I was busy watching to make sure she doesn't come here. Hi, guys. I've spent a lot of time with these cheetah. Hours and hours and hours, long nights watching them being chased by lions. So I've got a soft spot for them. Wendy, yes, I think that if, in the terrible situation that something were to happen to Malaika, yes, I think these boys are capable of looking after themselves now. They'd stay together. They most definitely would stay together for a while, and in fact they will continue to stay together for the rest of their lives, most likely. But if something were to happen to Malaika, then yes, they would be able to survive, I believe. They're old enough now. We've seen them make their own kills. Often it's a scrub hare or something like that. But they're almost, apart from their slight ineptitude and occasionally jumping the gun, they are almost hunting for themselves. Right, so Malaika's got her eye on an entire selection of potential lunchtime dishes in front of her. She's got some, I think it's topi in the distance, some hartebeest, Thompson's gazelle. She's also seen some ostrich. I don't know which way she's planning on taking us, but it's going to be interesting to see where she does. That looks like a nice shady tree. How about we rest under that gardenia? There we go, and flop in the shade. That's where I would go if I were them. I've got to tell you. The Mara Meru Cheetah Project is also here. Oh, there they go. At the moment, I'm trying to speak really softly because they have a massive microphone. Elena's got a massive microphone that she's recording the cheetah sounds with. I'm trying to keep as quiet as possible and still present at the same time. It's it's a challenging thing. Recording vocalizations. Coast side are these beautiful, beautiful flowers. Hey, Hyena, look at you following along behind. Just waiting for a free meal here. You're not going to win though. I think these 3 cheetah are more than a match for you. Sorry, we were talking about the flowers. The beautiful flowers are called flay ink flowers. I've forgotten their Latin name. It's gone clean out of my head. It'll come back to me at some point. But they're also known, somewhat unfortunately, I feel, as toilet paper flowers, because they look apparently like toilet papers blown all over the grass. And I find it deeply distressing that people are that acquainted with the sight of toilet paper scattered across the grass that they feel the need to compare the flowers to it. But anyway, flay ink. And when I say flay, I am saying V-L-E-I, flay. It's like a felt type situation. And translated, flay. So I'm not talking about flaying somebody as in the, ancient torture method. Okay, let's go catch up with them. We are on a hunting mission, I believe. Not yet. It's still got a while to go. But I think that's the plan. Okay, as we get another beautiful view of Malaika and her 2 boys who really don't want to walk anywhere, let's go and see how Rolf's afternoon is treating him.
Thank you. Yes, well, we are covering quite a bit of ground, and we're heading out towards where the river crossings are, so we've just been trying to get some distance on the go. But what was very fascinating for me once again was from the sky in the hot air balloon, to see the game paths that have been forged by the hippos and the elephants through the plains. Totally fascinating. And one of the times that I've seen this before was I was looking after a camp in the Linyanti concession of the Okavango Delta in Botswana. And they flew me from Kasane, which is near to Victoria Falls, down into the concession, which was about half an hour flight, half an hour 45 minutes, in a tiny little Cessna 4-seater. But we flew a reasonable height and just high enough that we could see for quite a long distance, but also close enough that we could see any animals, etc. But I was totally fascinated by these game paths, and particularly of elephants, because from the sky it was very evident that these elephant paths were almost perfectly straight, and once we got a bit of height on it, you could also see that they were evenly spaced and carried on for up to about 100 kilometers. It was ridiculous, and so it almost seems like when they move on these long distance journeys, there is some kind of magnetism or something that they use for their navigation, because the perfect straight lines and the perpendicular lines parallel to each other indicated to me that there was something more going on than them just randomly walking towards a destination. Something to look into, but elephant paths have a lot of mythology around them as well, because even here in parts of Kenya and all sort of areas of South Africa, a lot of the roads and human roads, have been built on the old ancient elephant paths, because they always used the shortest distance between 2 places, as well as using the easiest way to cut through mountain passes and that kind of thing. So we actually piggybacking and biomimicking the very intelligent or instinctive, I'm not quite sure, habits of the elephants, who have forged these perpendicular perfect lines through the bush. And for me, just a fascinating topic to get into, and it would be interesting to see if anybody's got any information of that. Please send it in and get involved in the discussion. But for now, yes, just to finish off there, it was an absolutely wonderful flight once again over the Mara Triangle, and it is something that I think if anybody comes to Kenya, you need to try it out, because from that perspective it is absolutely stunning here, and at least you get to see the sheer immensity of it, and all these little things like what I'm talking about with the game paths, really evident from a hot air balloon, something that you won't get from a vehicle like this. So, I'm heading on now down towards the river crossings, and I'm sure we're going to come across once again the pods of hippos that are there, maybe the crocodiles as well, sunning themselves on the bank, and then we hope for possibly even the paradise pride that has been hanging around here. We did see them on this side of the river the other day, and I thought that it was the musketeers, but the lions, musketeers that were with them. So we stand a chance of spotting them as well. So if they've stayed on this side of the river, if they haven't, well, we might see them on the other side. Now, VB, you're wondering if there's any animal that guides don't care for. VB, I'd have to say that probably flies, but I think that goes without saying. Nobody really likes a fly, do they? Mosquitoes, that's another one. And top of my list has to be a spider. I really don't like them at all. I can stomach them just looking at them from a small distance. It's not like I kill spiders or anything like that, but I have said it before, I've got a real phobia for them. But I have no problem in showing guests all sorts of weird and wonderful colors in spiders, and like kite spiders, if anyone's ever seen one of those. Beautiful red and yellow colors on them, and they make a lovely web, normally in a kind of brushy or thickety type area, and it's normally when you're on foot that you see a lot of these kite-shaped webs with this very spiky-looking spider on the middle of it. But spiders like the golden orb web spider really give me the creeps, because they are so big. Some of them are as big as my hand, that and they're totally harmless, but it's, I don't know, just the sheer thought of them really gives me the heebie-jeebies. So, but I'm not going to go and persecute or murder any spiders. I don't like them anywhere near me. And one of them that are the worst are the flat spiders, because there's nothing worse than lying on your bed and you see a flat spider on the roof and you turn away and you turn back and it's gone. That's me. All right. So while I head on down to the river, let's head you on back to Jamie with those cheetah.
Well, here's things with lots of legs, but there's 3 of them, so it makes it slightly better. I don't mind spiders at all. Spiders don't bother me, but centipedes, on the other hand, no. Centipedes and I do not get on. So we're watching a really sweet, very tender moment. At first I thought it was the 2 boys cuddling each other, because they are very affectionate. But in fact it's one of the young males, and Malaika at the back there, and she's just been given a really thorough face clean from her young son. There we go, getting behind the ears, talking about animals that we don't like or insects we don't like. Not a huge fan of ticks either, and her boy will be helping to get rid of some of the ticks. Oh. Cute man. Getting rid of some of the ticks around the more sensitive areas. Ah, Philip, now you want to know where do we put them on the fluffy scale. You know, I would say right up there with Tristan's hair before he got his hair cut recently. Tristan was the one who wanted to know all about the fluffy scale and how we define fluffiness. I would put them, the boys are definitely higher up on the fluffy scale than Malaika, but they are somewhere below hyenas and above pangolins on the fluffy scale, just in case you want to know. We never really fully came up with a unit of measurement for the fluffiness scale. There we go, walking past us once again, slowly making her way towards some unsuspecting antelope. How beautiful are these cats against this green grass. Beautiful. So she's definitely on a mission. She's definitely hungry. She might well be waiting for the storm that seems to be hovering over us to break out. Remember that sighting we had where we watched Malaika's boys playing in the rain? It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Talking of nature and her surprises. And of course the hyena's up and following them once again. But it's just gone right behind us. Where is she going? Sorry, before I reposition, let me just wait and see exactly which way she's going to go. So I can make sure I stay out of her way. It's funny watching her move. It's really funny watching her move with the males. Because they clearly most of the time don't want to move. Like a fair amount of teenage boys that we would all know. So they walk with her, and then as soon as she stops, then they go, okay, cool, we're lying down. And then she keeps going, and they look at her, like, all right. And then they get up again. No, you silly hyena, I'm not chasing you. Relax. I'm just trying to get round to the cheetah again. Whoop, big hole. Oh, it's so nice to off-road in short grass. Now, Brent, while we get a little bit closer to our cheetah, Brent would like to know if you've ever heard of two cat species coming together to live together. No. I have seen it in situations where the cats are in captivity. In that situation, it's very common. It might be a possibility where lions are concerned. Lions are social cats. But you're talking about two different species, and it's really in the wild. It goes against... Let's just stop here, I think. It gives us plenty of room for when they get up and move again. It goes against everything cats stand for and standard competition in the wild. There was a recent case of a lioness with a leopard cub. Those sorts of things do happen, particularly where mums and cubs are concerned, or mums and youngsters are concerned. And it never works out. It never results in a successful story. Species out here tend to stick with their species. And the only situations where you get hybridization, and hybridization does occur, is in really quite unnatural circumstances. So tigers breed with lions. Jaguars have been known to be bred with other big cats. Most of them can interbreed, but it's not something that happens in the natural order of things. I'm trying to think if there's any kind of example. You'll see cheetahs forming friendships with dogs, domestic dogs. But again, that's in a situation where the cheetah are domestic. Now, most of the time, species are species for a reason. They're separate from each other for a reason. They tend not to interbreed. They are in competition with each other in the case of the big cats. And the vast majority of the time, their instinct is to either kill the other species or run away from it. Cheetah, of course, have very little power in terms of their hierarchy within the big cat scale. But if they encounter lion cubs, they have been known to kill them. I think that Malaika is going to take this step by step by step in the way that all journeys have to be started. Rolf apparently has succeeded in his journey this afternoon. Let's go across and join him at the Mara River.
Thanks, Jamie. Yes, everybody, this is one of my favorite places to come. It's very tranquil, listening to the sound of the rapids as the water flows over the rocks. And it's always quite full of hippos here. So you're constantly hearing them coming up to the surface and blowing their little bit of air out, sucking up a lot of air before they head down underneath water again. And every now and then you get the odd calling that they do. So for me, that is one of the real iconic sounds of Africa. coupled with the lion's roar and the African fish eagle. I think a hippo is definitely one of them. I also like jackal calls and hyena calls in the night. It's very much makes me feel in Africa, at home, and I really miss those sounds when I'm not near to the bush or away from the continent. It really makes me want to come back and hear those sounds. If I see it or hear it on TV, it really makes me homesick. But everything's quite calm here at the moment. We haven't seen any crocodiles on the bank just yet. There are a few birds around as well. There's some of the grey-crowned cranes with a couple of Egyptian geese in front of them. I wonder if they're going to have a square-off, because they both are quite particularly aggressive, and they are monogamous pairs. So let's have a look. Maybe there is a bit of a square-off here between these two. A bit of David and Goliath, but I wouldn't put it past the Egyptian geese giving it to them, because they are quite ruthless in their fighting. They're just walking past each other. It looks like the crane almost wants to peck the Egyptian goose, or is it that they're looking at something in the log? I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they're quite sure either. But the two cranes in perfect synchronization there. They're like synchronized swimmers, aren't they? With their legs up in the air after they've dived in the water, while working in perfect unison. It's wonderful to watch that. And the Egyptian geese are not really in any kind of unison at all, but very pink legs, and seeming like they're also in a little bit of display. It's that time of the year, I would say. But these two crowned cranes are also a little bit of the lovebirds. Maybe this is a couple's getaway or retreat. Everybody coming down next to the bank. Maybe they're making friends. Well, whatever it is, they're in the same area, and they seem to be interested in a similar thing. And that looks like a common green shank. Is in the perfect habitat, just on the banks and on the shores of the river. That's where they are supposed to be, according to our books. Running along, just feeding on the little insects and things just on the edge of the water there. So you often find them next to the banks like that, and most wading birds have all got these long stilt-like legs. Some of them have web between their toes, but others, that's obviously just so that they can wade in, as we would say, knee-deep water for them as they forage on that real shoreline. A lot of nutrients and little insects and all sorts get washed up right in that zone, right there. It's very often with ecozones or change of habitat in specific, just on that border is where there's a lot of nutrients and things. Now, Died Monkey, you want to know where's all the water gone? Absolutely, Died Monkey. See how the river has receded over the last few days. It came up really quickly, and it has, as a subsequent... sorry, just listening to the hippos there. It has receded again. And most of that water would have been dumped in Lake Victoria, down in Tanzania. Listen to the hippos. That is one of the best sounds in the bush. When we say in the bush, I know that we're looking at a river, but that's a general call that we say in these parts when we're talking about being in the wild. So we talk about being in the bush. I suppose it would be like Australians saying being in the outback. For us, we say being in the bush. I think the Australians also say being in the bush as well. And yes, so the hippos are not in the bush per se, but they're in the wild. There's a lot of good-looking individual hippos here. We did see a few from the balloon, but they look very ungainly when they're out of water. These big fat bellies with just their very short stumpy legs, but very much made for exactly what they're doing here, lazing around in a nice little pool. And often you can find a little terrapin or something sitting on their backs. And in the water, which we can't see, but you will always find a lot of fish around hippos as well, particularly catfish, but also the tilapia species, because as they defecate, which they do a lot in the water, kind of like elephants and rhino, they do pass a lot of vegetation through their bodies, and so they defecate a lot, and the fish obviously enjoy this, so they hang around the hippos. And we have often used that to our advantage. We go to fish near the hippos, but you do need to be very careful, because you don't want to get on the wrong side of a hippo, especially if you had to cast one of your sinkers on his head. I think he'd get a little bit angry with you. So you do need to be very careful, and we are very cautious. And that looks like, oh, it's a harrier of sorts. It's quite quick and fleeting. I don't know if it's a Montague's. It looks a little bit patchy, like it is a juvenile. That was quite quick for me to see. Just his flight shape and or flight pattern and shape just tended or lent towards being a harrier. But I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at that again. But I'm sure there's some of the birders out there that are going to help me with that identification. If I was right in being a harrier, that would be great. But if I'm wrong, well, you just tell me, because it would be nice to know what bird that was. He did have a white head, a little bit of mottles, and so that's why I thought it might be a juvenile. There's a yellow-billed stork, a little bit further downstream. He's obviously had enough of his foraging, as they do with their open bill, searching around in the shallows as well, next to the bank. They walk around with their open bill, and then they use their foot to sort of kick up the dirt next to their bill, and hope that there's some frogs or tadpoles or even little fish and crabs and things like that that get loosened up. And if it touches his bill, which is actually quite sensitive, I must say that the bills of birds, they are quite they have a lot of feeling in them. So it's not just like a nail or something like that you wouldn't have any feeling in it. They have a lot of receptors within the bill, and they would be able to feel fine little vibrations. And if a crab or a tadpole had to touch the bill, they will feel it and snap it closed. Now, dyed monkey, you want to know if there's any diving fish birds in the Mara? Well, I think what you might be thinking of, but tell me if I'm wrong, some of the kingfishers, and yes, we do. We've got a lot of the kingfishers here, the giant kingfisher, and I'm talking about the actual fishing or piscivore specimens of the kingfishers. There's the giant kingfisher, the pied kingfisher, the malachite kingfisher, and so they are very good divers into the water. And the pied kingfisher being one quite special, because he's quite a good hoverer, so he will spend a lot of time above the water, flitting around, looking for the little fish to dive in on. They normally use the sun to their advantage as well. You're putting it behind their back, and so it would be looking into the sun, their prey. Now, Tom, you want to know how hippos prevent sunburn? Well, they do excrete like this kind of waxy substance that almost makes them look a little bit of a whitish blue color. And it is quite waxy or oily, and it is one way of them helping to protect themselves from the sun. Another way for them, so that's a natural sort of sunscreen that they excrete, and so that definitely helps. But they also do spend quite a lot of time in the water, in quite murky water like you see here. So that also does help screen the harmful effects of the sun, and that's why you'll also find them spending lots of time in the water. But mostly, and there's one defecating now. You see, even in the water, they can be marking their territory or splashing their dung around, that the males can have a good smell of it, and or even taste it. And it does show them or indicate to them where they are in their sort of cycle or in terms of reproduction. But the hippos with the sun, it's particular with that excretion that helps them more so than being in the water. But being in the water actually helps with their thermoregulation, because they're not able to maintain a perfect temperature as well as most mammals, so they do come in the water to assist with that. And when it's very hot outside, you will then find them in the water, and when the water is very cold, you'll find them outside of the water. So it does depend a lot on the temperature of both of outside and in the water as to where you'll find them. They do definitely get affected by the sun, and that's why they will be moving in and out of the water at different times. And as we know, they do go out to graze, so if the sun isn't out, they can spend extended periods of time grazing and walking through when the sun isn't out, and I mean that during the day. Now, Dale, you want to know if the hippos ever come out of the water during the day? Yes, they can do. If it's very cold, and even if the sun's out, but it's very cold, they'll come out and they can graze. Other times is when it's very overcast or even misty or foggy, like we actually had the other morning. It was very misty here in this particular spot, and there were hardly any hippos in the river. They were all out during the day, grazing along in the plains. And so it was a very good indication of the conditions that we were finding all the hippos out of the water. On a day such as today, I haven't seen one, and the pools are filled with big pods of hippos. So very indicative once again that it's not good for them to be out of the water today. It's too hot. So they're quite happy in a nice cool pool. And yesterday we were in this exact spot as well, and they were playing around and wrestling, a couple of the youngsters. But for now, there's not too much action. There is at least a bit of vocalizations, and they are coming up and down. It's a little bit more entertaining than watching lions when they are completely flat. Well, I find anyway, because at least the hippos do need to go up and down. So you do sometimes hear them as well. And with flat lions in the middle of the day, it's a good idea to come down to the river and enjoy that time with some of the hippos. And then as it cools down, then maybe you move back towards the predators who might be a little bit more active. Okay, everyone, I think we've spent enough time at this particular pool with this particular pod of hippos, and the crowned cranes are still walking in unison. But let's move on a little bit and see what else we can find. Maybe stop off at one of the other river crossings, and after that I'm going to be returning in a similar direction, but then heading out towards the hyena den, because I want to just pop in and see what's going on there, see if there's any action. Oops, let's go this way. I always pop into the hyena den area when I'm in the area. Okay, so I'm going to head towards another one of the crossings, and we'll see what we can find there. But while I do that, let's head you on back to Jamie with one of my favorite cats in the world.
It's hard not to love Cheetah, is it not? I agree with Rolf's decision that they are one of his favorite cats in the world. Well, I couldn't agree more. And just to let our viewers know, we will be joined by a school this afternoon. I think it's just one school. The kids are 8 and 9 years old. So, of course, it's one of the wonderful things that we are privileged enough to be able to do, is to bring these live safaris to the classroom, and the kids get to ask us questions. So during that time, for our new viewers, we will be prioritizing the school kids' questions. That doesn't mean that you stop sending through your questions. Please continue to do so in the regular ways, and then we will be able to answer them once we have sent the kids back off to the rest of their classes, which I can only imagine pale in comparison to what we can show them. But then I'm biased, am I not? So, a very warm welcome to the kids joining us from Allenton Elementary. I am so excited to have you on board with us because I need you to imagine that you are on a real live safari. So let me just explain a little bit about how this all works, and then we'll start talking about the cheetah that we are seeing here. So all of this is happening right here and right now. So while you're at school watching this is happening right now. My name is Jamie, and on camera is Adrian, but he's a little bit shy, so you won't see much of him except maybe a thumb if you're really lucky. Oh, there you go. See, you are lucky. So I want you to kind of imagine that I know it's difficult, but try and imagine you're on the back of the vehicle with me and ask all the questions that you've ever wanted to ask about wildlife, because now is your opportunity. So right now we're in a place called the Masai Mara, which is in Kenya. So hands up if you know where Kenya is. Cool. So Kenya is up in, Adrian's putting up his hand at the back. Kenya is up on the sort of eastern side of the African continent, kind of halfway up. Not quite, but yeah, actually, it's right on the equator. So Kenya's over there. We're also going to be joined by a group in South Africa. So our crew in South Africa will be joining us as well a little bit later. We'd also like to, I think if it is 5 o'clock, we would like to also welcome the new viewers who have jumped on board on different platforms. This is a live safari. Send through as many questions as you would like in whatever, or in the way that you would on whatever platform you are watching us on. Right. Deep breath back to the cheetah, who are very sleepy now. Now, there's a reason that they're very sleepy, and that is because it is very hot this afternoon. So it is quite warm, and the cheetah are resting, waiting for the temperatures to cool down slightly. Now, a cheetah is an animal that is pretty much always active during the day. But one thing that we've learned is that cheetah don't always read the rule books, and they are often also active at night. And I've just been talking to one of the researchers here about what they get up to overnight. Oh, there we go. Now I'm going to explain a little bit about these cheetah in a moment, but I think we want to see their faces while we get to know them, don't you? I think that's exactly what we need to do. So hold on. Everybody buckle up. You don't need to buckle up. I'm not driving very fast. We're going to go and have a look at them properly, and then I'll introduce them to you. So out here in the Mara, it is one of the best possible places you can come for cheetah. And as a result, there are lots of researchers around here and lots of people who come and film the cheetah and so on. And that's why almost all of the cheetah, if not all of the cheetah, actually have names. Now, they don't answer to the names like a dog or a cat, and it doesn't make them any less wild. All it does is it means that you know who you're talking about when you're talking about cheetah. Does that make sense? You know, it makes much more sense, and it's much easier to remember if I tell you that I am with a cheetah called Malaika rather than cheetah number 02516. So we are actually with a cheetah called Malaika and her 2 sons. Cheetah cubs will take around about 2 years to leave their mothers. It differs. It depends on if they're male or female, if it's 1 or 2. That is Malaika on the left, and that is her little boy on the right. So there she is. She's beautiful, 10 years old, and she is raising this particular set of cubs. Now, Kiki, I'm sure that you know that cheetah are the fastest land mammal. So what that means is that they can run unbelievably fast as your parents might drive on a motorway, and possibly even faster. So a cheetah can run at 120 kilometers an hour. So about 65 miles, possibly even up to 70 miles in certain circumstances. And from what I've read, it seems like the females might actually be a little bit faster than the males when it comes to running. But cheetah are built for speed. So they're not like your cats at home. Now, your cats at home have got claws that only ever come out when they're climbing or if they're fighting something, perhaps they've scratched you once or twice. Cheetah actually have paws that are kind of like dogs, not exactly the same, but they have claws that they cannot retract, they cannot pull back into their feet and hide away. And that's not because they're related to dogs in any way or anything like that, they are most definitely cats, but it does allow them extra traction. So for those of you that perhaps do sport and you get special running shoes with sort of different patterns on the bottom, that's for traction. That's so that you can push off the ground and not fall down. And the cheetah have something very similar. They also have very flexible spines, so their backbone can bend in directions that unless you're a gymnast, although you kids are quite young, so maybe your backs can bend quite well. But for the most part, they can bend like a human couldn't even imagine bending their spines. Big lungs and very slim shapes, as well as a long, heavy tail to help to balance them as they run. So when they turn corners, they can balance themselves and not fall over. So cheetah are amazing animals. So that was a really very good question about how fast it is that cheetah can run. Let's see if you can think of any more questions. There we go. Kai is asking about where the wildebeest are. So Kai is obviously clued up on the, comings and goings that happen in the Masai Mara. Kai, most of the wildebeest, most of them, have gone back to Tanzania. So just for the kids who don't know this, I think Kai does, but for the kids that don't know this, there is a massive migration. It's known as the Great Migration, and it's where around about 1.5 million wildebeest and a good couple of 100,000 zebra and some antelope thrown in for good measure. They do this huge circle throughout the year where they spend time in Tanzania and then they move all the way here to the Masai Mara in Kenya, and they have to cross rivers and face all sorts of dangers as they do that. And they do that so that there's plenty of green grass available. So Kai, the wildebeest at the moment, most of them are in Tanzania. They will only be back in July or possibly even August. But there are some wildebeest that are to the north of where we are. Now they are known as the loiter herd. And that particular herd of wildebeest, and no one really knows exactly why this would be, they don't follow the big herd. They stay behind, and they only move a small distance backwards and forwards. And unfortunately, they're a little bit too far away for me to show them to you. But I will tell you that they're very, very soon they're going to be giving birth, because wildebeest all give birth around about the same time. Unlike cheetah. Now look there. Look behind the cheetah. Look what we've got over there. Now, apparently, this spotted hyena, which I have to tell you is one of my favorite predators, this spotted hyena has been following these cheetah all day, waiting for them to make a kill, perhaps, so that it can try and steal some of it. Now, hyenas have a really bad reputation. Everybody thinks hyenas are smelly and they're thieves and they're lazy. They don't want to do any hunting themselves. But they do hunt. They absolutely do hunt. And yes, they do occasionally steal prey from other animals. But so do lions and so do leopards. And this hyena's just waiting for its chance. Hyenas are some of the cleverest animals that we get out here. They're really, really smart and really good problem solvers. So they're definitely an animal that we should appreciate more. Now, Grayson, we've got a spotted hyena. We've also got some spotted cats. And Grayson, you want to know, why is it that cheetah have spots? What do you think spots might help with? It's something that you really need to see and practice with both the cheetah and the leopard, because spots act as a type of camouflage. So remember, not all animals have eyesight that's as good as human beings. Remember that. So most animals see not as much color. They do see some color, but not as much color. So the spots basically break up the outline of the cheetah, not only when it's lying down, but also when it's moving. Its movements become less obvious, and obviously the animals out here are they're really good at spotting something that's moving, because that's how they survive. They have to spot that lion that's stalking them, or that cheetah. But spots actually help to disguise, so in other words, they hide the fact that the cheetah is moving, because it just sort of looks like the light changing or something like that. Now, of all of the animals, the leopard probably has the best camouflage. Now, a leopard doesn't have spots like a cheetah. See how the cheetah looks like somebody's taken a pen and drawn spots on them? A leopard's spots are actually called rosettes, and they're sort of open circles. Now, if you're really lucky, when our team from South Africa joins us, you might get lucky enough to see a leopard with them as well. And then you can compare the differences between the cheetah, which is built to run really fast, and the leopard, who is big and bulky and strong and built for strength. Now, these cheetah are resting for now. They're going to be settled here. Now, I've told you that we're here in Kenya. I'm sure you would also really, really like to travel all the way across to South Africa as well. So off you go, so that Noel can show you an antelope.
Good afternoon, everyone, and this morning we were talking about rain, and there is rain on the horizon. VM and I are over on Chitwa, and I don't know how long we're going to be able to stay here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Noelle, and hello, Allerton Schools. I hope you kids are having a really great time. It is rainy season for us, but we haven't had a lot of rain this year, and we really need it for all of the plants to survive, so the animals can survive. So that big rain cloud I showed you, super important. And then on camera, of course, I said I've got VM, the wildebeest. There's his thumbs up. Now, just to my left-hand side, we have a water buck who's decided that he is a mountain goat and is climbing on top of that termite mound there, or she, I should say rather. She has been up there for quite some time now and enjoying her little perch. I wonder what she's thinking. So water bucks are always close to water, and we've got Chitwa Dam just behind us. You usually find water bucks within 2 kilometers of water, so just over sort of 1.5 miles of water. And if you ever needed to find water when you were lost in the bush, if you follow their tracks, you'll pretty much get to where you need to go. Now, part of me wants to say she's up there because of the rain, but I actually personally think she's up there because of the type of grass that's growing on top of the termite mound. That termite mound, to give you an example, that water buck is about the size of a white-tailed deer. It's a small water buck. So that termite mound is pretty big. And Mariah, you're curious to know if it ever gets cold in Africa or if it just stays hot. Of course it gets cold, Mariah. Where I am right now, we don't get snow, but there are parts of South Africa that have really tall mountains that get snow. And then in our wintertime, where I currently live in South Africa, it gets down, it would probably be around 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Your temperature. For us, it would be sort of 2 to 4 Celsius at night, every now and then in the winter, but it doesn't usually get more cold than 6 degrees Celsius, so about 38, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But there's other parts of Africa, of sub-Saharan Africa, that get very, very, very cold. Deserts get below zero sometimes. It does. It gets chilly. It's not always hot. It's very similar to other parts of the world where you get cold and hot seasons across the way. Now, we have some more antelope species for you. We have impala. Those are the brown ones. And then, of course, there's a bum of a zebra. Everyone loves a zebra. You might call them zebra. We call them zebra. It's the same thing. It's like tomato or tomato. And that's a male zebra. Very, very thin black stripe between the bum cheeks. Females have a very thick black stripe. And there's another water buck. This one's a full-grown water buck that's coming into screen now. So these animals are all grouping together to help as it gets darker. More eyes, more ears, more sense of smell. Nina, I guess you're asking, how do I like my job? How much do I like my job? On a scale of 1 to 10. I think that's what I heard. 150. I love my job. I love what I do. I love being outside all the time. I love the wildlife. I love my guests. I love now the presenting with you all. It's a really fabulous job. And it never gets old. It's always different. It's absolutely fantastic. I couldn't imagine anything else. Now you can see that little white circle around the bum, and if we get back up to Jamie at any point, you must ask Jamie about the water buck that are up by her, because her water buck don't have that white circle on the bum. She's got a different type of water buck up by her, but they behave in similar fashions, being close to water. Now Taylor is also up in the Masai Mara in Kenya, and she has the tallest land mammal as well as the largest antelope species in the world. So I think let's head on up to her so that you can have a look-see at what she wants to show you.
We've got two of the coolest animals in Africa, the ones that everybody goes crazy to see, the giraffe, and you may have seen the zebra also flicking its tail around. So how's that for a welcoming to all the wonderful children of Allenton Elementary? It's great to have you on board my safari vehicle this afternoon. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me, bringing you all the coolest things to see, is Manu. And remember, you can ask as many questions as you like. All you have to do is ask your teacher. So maybe there's something that you've wanted to know about a giraffe or a zebra, and maybe I'll think of exactly what you want to ask and answer it before you even get the chance. And also, I have to tell you, because it's so noticeable and it's something you won't see. Maybe you will if you're lucky enough, or if you ask Noel nicely to show you the Drakensberg Mountains. But that escarpment, that hill at the back, is known as the Olololo. It's a cool word to say. I'm sure you're all going to try and say it, so let's do it once more together. Olololo. Escarpment. There's too many L's and too many O's in that word for my liking, but it does make for the most very, very pretty scene. Now, unfortunately, the giraffe are not tall enough. The zebra are not tall enough to be silhouetted against it, but the giraffe most certainly are. And it's important that they are tall like that and have those long necks, so that they can eat the trees, they can eat the tops of the leaves. And you can see the zebra don't need to have tall necks because they like to eat grass, so they're feeding down on the ground. Although, sometimes giraffe make it difficult for themselves, and you see them doing the splits, trying to reach the smallest of bushes that are growing amongst the grass, and sometimes it looks like they're eating grass, but it isn't. Someone else is also coming in to enjoy the giraffe sighting. You saw that other safari car. Now, Levi, you're wondering, how big can a zebra get? Well, let's do it to something that you will know. For all of you that know ponies, perhaps some of you have been on a pony ride, or maybe you ride horses. A zebra is a little bit bigger than a pony, I would say. Probably a bit stockier, although I've seen some fat ponies in my life. You actually don't see very many thin ones. So use that as an example. The biggest pony you've seen, that is the size of a zebra. And yes, they're just as cheeky as the ponies too. They like to kick and bite. But luckily, they're not interested in kicking and biting us. And then there's some other little animals you can see moving at the background. I just thought I'd point them out to you. They are a combination of impala and Thompson's gazelle that are up there on that ridge. And maybe a little bit later, as we head around, we'll get a closer look, and then you'll see how beautiful and the different colors that they have on their coats, because at the moment it's a bit hard to see. They're very, very far away. But it's lovely. There are an abundance of animals. So here the Thompson's gazelle now. They've got 3 different colors. Oh, cool. My favorite bird in the whole wide world. Look at that. The secretary bird. Who's chasing who? Don't worry, that secretary bird is not interested in eating those Thompson's gazelle. They actually are specialists at catching snakes, funny enough. But we haven't been seeing them catching too many snakes. The snakes are quite sneaky out here. Those beautiful big raptors, those big birds, they've been eating lots and lots of grasshoppers. And that's what they've been gobbling up at the moment. What else have you got there, Manu? Just some more zebra. Lots of them. Lots of animals around where we are. The grass is nice and green. It's nice and short. And we're also quite close to the Mara River. So they've got somewhere to come and drink. And every now and then I can hear the poosh, poosh. So that must mean that there are some hippos in the river too. Hopefully we'll go and see them at some point. Jordan, you're wondering if there are elephants in East Africa? Yes, there are. We actually spent quite a bit of time with them this afternoon, and they are around. They're not here right now. See, where they like to hang around is an area where it's quite marshy. The grass is nice and wet, the grass is nice and green, and then on the edge of the marsh there are these very, very tall trees that are dropping fruit at the moment. So they've been feeding on them. So that's their local hangout, whereas the giraffe don't really eat fruit. I haven't seen a zebra eating fruit. It wouldn't surprise me if they nibble on the odd fruit here and there, but it's not a big part of their diet. So for them, they prefer to be, giraffe would like those trees, the trees that are dropping the fruit for the leaves, but out here there's other sorts of trees that they can feed on, and then like we said, that the grass is nice and green for the zebra. So we could even see some hippos coming out of the water too, which could be quite special, don't you think? It's not too hot now, it's getting a little bit windy, so it's cooling down. So we'll keep an eye out for any hippos. Now, Ashton, you're talking about how long are giraffes' necks? Well, these giraffes get to about 18 feet tall. So these are the Maasai giraffes. So they're a different species of giraffe than the ones that you'll see down in South Africa. And they're the biggest ones that we get out of all the species of giraffe. I'm not really sure in comparison to their bodies how long their necks are. At least almost looks like half and half, don't you think? Those necks are very, very long. But they've got the same amount of vertebrae. So the bones in your neck, we've got 7. So do giraffe. Can you believe it? Theirs are just really, really big. We might even be able to find a giraffe carcass around here. Imagine if I could show you how big some of those vertebrae, those bones in their necks are. That would be really nice. I think that one is watching a car at the moment, because I can hear the one we saw earlier, driving. And I think it's watching all the people as they drive off. What a nice sighting for everybody out here. Wouldn't you like to come on a safari with us? I'd love to take all of you watching on a safari. I think we could have a lot of fun. The only thing though is if you come on my car, you're going to get very dirty. Going to cover you in mud and make you taste and smell all sorts of wonderful things, which can be quite exciting too. I'm just staring off into the distance. Not doing much at all, not feeding, just standing, looking. And sometimes giraffe need to relax as well. Right, let's quickly take a drive down to the river. Let's see if we can see any hippos. Right, we'll see if we can find a nice spot on the river to find some hippopotamus that maybe be frolicking about in the water. Let's go back to Jamie, who's on the other side of the Mara River.
I am on the other side of the Mara River, and speaking of a nice spot, well, we have several nice spots here. Oh, but they are very, very sleepy. So it is hot out here, and even though cheetahs mostly move about during the day, they don't really move around during the heat of the day unless they absolutely have to. So there's a couple of storms building. Now, most likely she's waiting until the storm gets a little bit closer now. Why do you think that she would wait until the storm gets closer before she goes hunting? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because with the storm comes a whole load of wind. The wind blows quite hard. The rain is pouring down. Now, I don't know if you've ever been caught in a storm outside before, but you'll know that it's really hard to hear and really hard to see. So, for the cheetah, that's the perfect time to hunt, because then the animals don't necessarily see them coming or hear them coming. And I think that might be what she's waiting for. Either way, they do most of their hunting in the evenings or in the mornings when it's still nice and cool. Now the big stretch resting on the carpet of grass. Now Eric, good question. Eric would like to know how the cheetah approach their prey. So, remember we spoke about their camouflage. Now, cheetah are really fast, but they can't run very fast for too long, so they get really tired really quickly. So what that means is that if the prey animal sees them too soon, then it can just keep running, and it'll keep running until the cheetah gets too tired to chase anymore. So, we spoke about the camouflage. What the cheetah will do is try and creep forward really slowly. Now out here the grass is quite short, so it's difficult for them to creep up on something. So what they've got to do is use things like termite mounds, or maybe a small hill to hide themselves, sometimes even bushes or trees, and they use those to hide themselves, and they watch what the prey is doing. And then as soon as the prey looks down, then they sneak forward to the next hiding place, and then they sneak forward to the next hiding place. And every time the prey looks up, or the antelope or whatever they're hunting, then they duck down again and they lie down and they hide away. And then as they're close enough, then they will shoot out and run as quickly as possible. Okay, so we've spoken about a cheetah hunting. I know you've been seeing some really amazing birds with Taylor, and she's found some more to show you.
We've got something really cool, and I don't know if we've seen them yet, that they look very much like dwarf mongoose to me. These little birds, I'm looking at other birds, these little creatures. But in South Africa, the dwarf mongoose are a completely different color. They are like chocolate brown, where these ones clearly aren't, as you can see. They're like ginger. Hello. That looks like a youngster. Now, they don't get very big. Dwarf mongoose are the smallest mongoose species that we get out here. But that is so cool. Really, really nice to see that. Now, they were very busy. Let me show you a trick. Sometimes what we like to do is if you do this, they come out. They make a very high-pitched noise when they talk to one another as well. And then they're for some reason attracted to that noise. They become quite curious. See how they're looking? Going, what was that? Now, I don't sound anything like a mongoose, I can promise you. But that seems to work. And this is maybe the third time I've seen them. The first 2 times I actually saw this different coloration, I thought it was a completely different species of mongoose. I don't think it is. It's just a different color variation up here in the Mara Triangle. And I see them around a lodge called Sabi, but I haven't been able to get many photos. And they're running at the back, diving into the trees. Now, you wouldn't want to be out here in the open if you were so small. Let's see if we can... There goes another one. And the reason why is because there's lots of big birds of prey, big raptors that would want to eat you. So eagles and falcons and things like that. There we go. There's another one. Ah, everybody from the Allerton School, you said that the safari has been the best part of your day. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. But you must also thank your teachers, because they're very important. There they all are again. They're all running out. Look how quick they are. There's a huge family of them, because they're going to teach you all these wonderful things about life. So it's very important that you must listen to your teacher. You're really lucky to see those little things, everyone. I promise you. I don't know if we put them on camera yet. We'll have to ask our viewers who have been watching for years and years. And I'll tell you again next time I have a chat to you if we have seen this different color variation of the dwarf mongoose. And sometimes that happens just depending on the area. Now look at the sky. Look how it's changed. Hey Manu, is that rain coming? Oh, big rain is on its way. I can hear the wind is now creeping up on us. The leaves are starting to rustle. Look at those dark clouds. We might have to get out of here. Uh-oh, and Manu says, I don't think it's a good idea to sit here. Oh no, look at that, how the weather's just changing. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. Right, well, I think we're going to have a backup plan now this afternoon and escape and head that way to where the sun is setting down to the west, and that's the area that Ralph is in, and it seems as though he's found that hyena den.
Thanks, Taylor. Yep, and we're also still sitting in the sun, but these couple of little cubbies have at least shown themselves. It seems like there's no adults around, and when we arrived, these two were out of the den, but immediately as they saw us, they jumped down back into the hole, and that's what they want from the cubbies. If the adults aren't around, I don't see a babysitter, but it's quite possible that they're just lying in the grass here and we haven't been able to see them. But if the adults are away and they expect the cubbies to stay in the hole, well, that is quite good that they do, because that'll keep them out of harm's way. But these two just coming out a little bit now, so at least they're showing themselves for us, but they're not going far from the entrance. And that means that if they do see or hear anything that might be of danger, they can quickly pop back down into the hole. And there are a few still just poking their heads out. Now, Jaden, you want to know if they hunt? Not at this very young age, Jaden. It's too young for them to be hunting, so they're waiting for their mom and dad to come back. Well, mostly mom, because dad isn't allowed anywhere near to the den where these cubs are. So it's only the mommies that bring all the food back for the little ones, and they also still drink milk from mommy, and they can drink milk from mom until almost 2 years, which is a long time if you look at lions and leopards and even jackals. They don't drink milk for as long as hyenas do. But it means that the little youngsters, like these little ones here, they do get the best start possible. And also that mom can go away for even up to 3 days. And they won't feed for that long because the milk is so nutritious. It's got everything they need inside. And so mom can give them some milk and off she can go hunting for 2 or 3 days. Now, Allenton School, thanks once again for your question. Are hyenas predators or prey? Well, Allenton School, I can tell you that they are 100% predators. There's not much that preys on a hyena, except maybe other hyenas sometimes, and lions. But hyenas and lions can also have very big fights, and sometimes the hyenas win. So it's not always the lions that beat the hyenas. They are also quite strong, and there's normally more hyenas than there are lions. So they can gang up against the lions and also chase them off some food. But remember, hyenas are also very good hunters themselves. So they can also catch a lot of food. Even zebra and buffalo, it is known. And so it's not always that they just scavenge or go and steal any of the other predators' food. They also do catch a lot of their own. So it's not always the same as like it is in the Lion King or in the cartoons. Hyenas are very good hunters on their own as well. And they're not as bad as everybody thinks. I think hyenas are very nice creatures. They just have their own way, don't they? So the lions are beautiful and very much different looking to the hyenas. But hyenas are beautiful in their own way, I think, especially when they're small like this. Look at those big ears of theirs. They're almost like satellite dishes. But it makes for hearing all the sounds in the bush. And they can pick up small little noises, and they can hunt, especially with those very good ears. Annabelle, you want to know how old are the cubs? Well, Annabelle, it's quite easy to see the different age groups of the little babies, because the very black ones are they are the youngest ones. That's how they're born. When they're born, they're very black. And as they get a little bit older, then they start to get their spots and they turn a little bit brown like these ones have. But that's only after a few months. So we did see that one little black one. But these other ones are all between 6 months and 2 years of age. And that bigger one there that's poking its head out is probably a year and a half or so. So that's what you can